Good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, attendees, and all following us from around the world. I am pleased to welcome you to the Pre-Global South-South Development Expo event launch of the South-South in Action publication, SSTC in Agricultural Development, FAO's Experiences, which has been jointly prepared by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. My name is Michela Baratelli from the South-South and Triangular Cooperation Division of FAO. If you allow me a few seconds of housekeeping in order to help our event to run more smoothly, I would like to remind you all to mute your microphones while you're not speaking, of course, and to ensure we don't have audio interference. There will be, of course, a dedicated open interactive dialogue session, a Q&A session during the event after hearing of our distinguished panelists' presentations, in which you will be able to intervene and ask your questions, which are for us very important. You also will see that we have a Q&A in chat info box where you can also add your comments. And therefore, thank you very much. I would like now to begin the event. Today's event aims, of course, at promoting the fundamental role of SSTC in contributing to the alleviation of hunger, malnutrition, and other development challenges across the Global South, and of course, to reaffirm FAO's and the UN Office for South-South joint SSTC commitments towards the achievement of the SDGs. We have also launched this week, and we're very proud of that, our FAO virtual exhibit for the Global South-South Development Expo 2022 event, which will, as you know, and you definitely need to go, in mid-September in Bangkok, Thailand. And on this note, I would like to pass the floor to our first panelist, Mrs. Xiaojun Grace Wang, Deputy Director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, to open the ceremony. Mrs. Xiaojun, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michela. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, a very warm welcome to you all. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation is pleased to present the publication on South-South and Triangular Cooperation in Agricultural Development in partnership with Food and Agriculture Organization. This publication describes FAO's engagement in South-South and Triangular Cooperation in support of efforts to boost agricultural productivity, enhance food and nutrition security, and elevate poverty in developing countries worldwide. And it shows a clear example for the UN system, how a UN agency can support critical issues for Global South, especially in the very challenging development world today. The series of South-South in Action, launched in 2016, provides a space for our partners, including United Nations member states, United Nations entities, and intergovernmental organizations or other stakeholders to promote and share their successful homegrown solutions to some commonly experienced challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, the important role of South-South and Triangular Cooperation in accelerating sustainable development has gained recognition and continued momentum over the past decades. There is growing consensus around the sharing of ideas, knowledge, expertise, and skills to inform mutual support and to also shape collective action and collective wisdom among developing countries to address common challenges and build shared strength. With the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, governments across the world made commitment to end hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture by 2030. To realize this ambitious goal, it is very crucial for all hands on deck, for all partners to work together, and South-South Triangular Cooperation representing such a spirit of solidarity, such inclusiveness of all different actors, including UN agencies working with member states, working with private sector, NGOs, civil society to join efforts to form cooperation. I'm sure FAO experiences will give you many examples in this regard. FAO is recognized as one of the leading facilitators for South-South and triangular cooperation, especially for food security and agriculture development. With over 2 decades experience, it helped connect South-South cooperation country demands and supply, as well as ensure the quality of the cooperation. Recently, we also know FAO's work with countries in Africa and contributing equally through all member states' participation. And that is also a model that can be replicated by other agencies. This publication highlights such experiences, FAO's diverse and flexible modalities for exchange at policy, institutional, and grassroots levels, how this links to major regional. It also presents case studies demonstrating how South-South cooperation has contributed to elevating hunger and malnutrition in countries across the global South and help to build resilience in face of climate change and other development challenges. And also, we learn from FAO triangular cooperation experiences. As global hunger levels are at a new high, and the number of severely food insecure people has doubled within just 2 years, affected by conflicts, pandemic, and a climate crisis, the world looks for solutions and cooperation. We hope the contributions shared in this series, including FAO's experience, will deepen the scope of thinking and action and facilitate broader South-South and triangular cooperation in addressing the food and agriculture challenges we face today. I would like to congratulate FAO again for sharing its wonderful experiences as a champion in the UN system to advance South-South and triangular cooperation in line with the system-wide strategy and responding to the call for enhanced measures of support by the General Assembly resolution on South-South cooperation. As Michaela mentioned, the Global South-South Development Expo is taking place on September 12th to 14th in Thailand, and at the same time, virtually connecting everybody around the globe. I really wish to see your active participation in the Global South-South Expo and appreciate this pre-expo exercise to warm up our thoughts, ideas, and then to make the exchanges at the Expo leading to concrete, actionable recommendations and partnerships. Thank you very much. I wish you a very productive session today.
Many thanks, Mrs. Wang. What a great opening. And also opening from FAO's side, I am pleased now to pass the floor to Mr. An-Ping Ye, Director of the South-South and Triangular Cooperation Division in FAO. Mr. Ye, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michaela. And before my speech, I would like to express FAO PST to thank Madam Xiaojun. You had very good remarks for this launch ceremony. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and maybe good evening. I'm so honored to be with you, and I sincerely thank you very much for your participation today, all of you. Dear colleagues from UNOSSC, thank you very much for your continual collaboration and your support on the area of South-South and triangular cooperation. Dear panelists and moderators, thank you very much for bringing your perspective, insights, and contributions to today's dialogue. I think that today's dialogue, because of you, will be very successful and very fruitful. I think that your engagement and your support is key to mainstream South-South and triangular cooperation. Countries in the global South offer myriad development solutions deliver in the forms of knowledge, experience, good practice, innovative policies, technology, and resource. All of these are key accelerator recovery and transformation of agri-food system in the Global South. In this respect, South-South and Triangular Cooperation is at the heart of FAO's operation. Our work is also guided by a strategy vision with the global of achieving 4 battles. This is initiated by our Director General, Dr. Qu Dongyu. They are included better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life for all. South-South and Triangular Cooperation has an important role to play in achieving the above 4 battles. In the recent years, we have also been witnessing great interest in the Global South and Triangular partners' readiness to finance South-South and Triangular Cooperation projects. Ladies and gentlemen, the South-South in Action book we are jointly launched today, very soon, with UN Office for South-South Cooperation, contains important insights on how we at FAO have applied the South-South and Triangular Cooperation to the delivery of our mission. It also showcases 3 important case studies, which illustrated how South-South and Triangular Cooperation contribute daily alleviating hunger and malnutrition in the country across the Global South. It demonstrates the wide range of FAO, South-South, and Triangular Cooperation projects carried out across the fields of food security and malnutrition, rural development, poverty reduction, and resilience, including climate change adaptation, sustainable agricultural productivity, and animal health. This book is a testament of continued fruitful collaboration with our partners, UNOSSC, and all our stakeholders who have made this work possible. I congratulate all who contributed the realization of this important document. It is therefore essential to act together innovatively to further expand the South-South and Triangular Cooperation in order to support all countries in their efforts to achieve the SDGs. South-South and Triangular Cooperation capacity building is also central to all these efforts, from policy and agriculture technology to management of value chain, creating a knowledge base and solutions that will support future development efforts, which are key to the South. As we all know, where partners do not share a common language, the transfer and upscaling of new practice and innovation from one country to another can be hampered. So we are therefore need to act rapidly. This including fostering new partner alliance with emerging economic and additional middle-income countries, and engaging with more non-traditional partners, such as private sectors. Today's deliberatation will also be important to pave the way for further South-South and Triangular Cooperation discussion and concrete action. In view of this year's Global South-South Development Expo in Bangkok in the next month. This is another important milestone on our path to mainstream South-South and Triangular Cooperation. Let's continue work towards more efficiently, inclusively, resilient, and sustainable agri-food system to secure the safe and nutritious food for all in the world. I look forward to listening to all of your valuable interaction. And now I'm also pleased to launch the video of our SSIA publications. Thank you very much for all of you.
Many thanks, Mr. Ye, for that. And indeed, this publication has been a very important joint initiative, and the video has ably promoted it. So thanks to all the colleagues, the UN office, for jointly working on this video, and of course, the publication. We will now hear from our three distinguished panelists, who will each present one of the three case studies showcased in the South-South in Action publication. It is my pleasure now to pass the floor to the first panelist, Mr. Mbuli Charles Boliko, FAO representative for Madagascar, who will present the case study on the FAO-China South-South Cooperation Project in Madagascar. Mr. Boliko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michaela. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, perfectly. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's my pleasure, my honor, ladies and gentlemen, to present the case of the South-South cooperation between China, Madagascar, and FAO, which was focused on the development of the hybrid rice variety in the country. Next slide, please. And so here, we really meant to show the partners here, to also let you know, as you can see from the bottom, that it was not only China and Madagascar and FAO, but we also worked with private companies. UNOSSC Madagascar was there essentially for agriculture inputs, including some light machineries, and STOI was there essentially for anything that has to do with packaging and commercialization of the produce. Next slide, please. And so the objectives will be what we already heard, especially from the video that we have watched. It was about increasing agriculture production, but also productivity, and in this particular case, profitability in the country. We introduced new technologies to 1,000 producers. We try to improve local production of seeds, quality seeds, and also we try to increase the income of agriculture producers. All of this is meant to lead to self-sufficiency in rice by the year 2025, which is one of the government's objectives. And this means reducing imports in rice, of course, also ensuring national food security. And this is basically the logical framework, in which we worked, with the end objective being to promote investment, agribusiness, and also trade in agriculture. Next slide, please. And so there were some interesting achievements. And as you can see from the line, which is predominantly in green, we start from the left-hand side. We provided cascade technical trainings. We had Chinese experts who trained Malagasy counterparts, and the Malagasy counterparts trained rice farmers. And so we also tried to improve agriculture infrastructure, including irrigation and the introduction of some level of machinery. And we worked hard on making sure we can produce seeds and multiply seeds locally. And the end result, as you can see from the green rectangle on the right-hand side, the way to variety yield in 2021 was actually 5 times, and the gross operating margin was 8 times higher compared to the local variety that is known as MK34. Actually, we are talking something close to 12 tons of rice per hectare, which is very huge compared to what we know in this country. We have some prospects from there. There is a need, we consider, to professionalize the seed sector in the country so that we may, improve the quality of seeds. We also have come to think and to know that if we were to use 8 to 10% only of rice paddy fields in the country for hybrid rice, the country will almost immediately achieve self-sufficiency when it comes to rice. And also, because of these understandings, currently the ministry, the government is working, is considering putting together a seed production scheme, which would be applied on 4,000 hectares. And this will lead to some yield of 9,000 tons per year. And we as FAO will support the government, but we also have our own TCP, which is aimed at promoting hybrid rice in the country, because you cannot take it for granted that people will always adopt it that way. And so we have some lessons learned, some good practices and challenges that we want to share. We selected really the most important one for lack of time. In terms of lessons learned, we have come to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that this hybrid variety that we introduced in Madagascar is tolerant to drought. Therefore, it contributes to resilience to climate change. In terms of good practices, we adopted the idea of distributing seeds for free to support people in the post-COVID-19 recovery. And also, we, as indicated slightly earlier, feed control, but also cascades training. This really provided quality assurance. And also we set up farmers field schools, which also facilitated this knowledge sharing. And the fact that training was provided by the Chinese to the Malagasy counterparts, that means the producers who are trained by the Malagasy counterparts in their local language were now able to better understand what we were up to. And this really facilitated the spreading of the knowledge. We had some challenges, ladies and gentlemen. Infrastructure in the country is a major challenge. Irrigation, roads, and therefore market access, etc., are things that need to be improved if we are to make further progress. And also we need to conduct some in-depth research for integration in the farming environment, because I think fertilizers were still expensive at that time, and they are even more expensive now with the geopolitical issues that we know on the Ukraine-Russia side. And equipment is also not always available. So these are some of the challenges that we need to address. Last but not least, I should say, the reliability of the government as a counterpart in this activity. As we speak, and I'm sorry to have to say this, we have almost finished the project. The government has contributed $0. And even when we advance something to the government, we are having trouble, getting that money back. These are some of the challenges that we should always consider, especially the last one, when considering South-South cooperation in other countries. And so let me finish with the way forward. I think we need to consider the development of new rice growing areas. As we said earlier, we need 8 to 10% more of paddy fields to be dedicated to this, and also improve irrigation water control in order to get even better results. Seed certification is where also we need to work with the government, and also we need to conduct studies on the profitability of state subsidy, because the government is providing subsidies. How profitable is that being? And markets for machinery, equipment, and other inputs. We have these light machines which are working very well, very adapted to local conditions, but they are not readily available. We need a market for that. And finally, socioeconomic assessment of the hybrid rice sector in Madagascar. I think I alluded to this one. We cannot take it for granted that it will be adopted just because it is so productive. We need to work on the socioeconomic aspects of it to make sure that people understand and that they finally adopt this at different levels. I think this is within the little time that I was given what I wanted to share. There will be time for discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bolico. Indeed, grassroots-oriented agriculture-related projects are key as they directly support the most vulnerable groups, such as you said, rural women, indigenous people, youth, and obviously it is inspiring to see the tremendous success achieved by the FAO China South-South Cooperation project in Madagascar. Obviously, there are lessons learned, there are things to obviously improve, as you mentioned, but overall, it's great to see this successful project growing. It is now my pleasure to pass the floor to our second panelist, Mrs. Minjong Zhang, Policy Officer for the General Division for International Cooperation at the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs of the Republic of Korea, who will be presenting the FAO and Republic of Korea case study, Capacity Development and Experience Sharing for Rice Value Chain through South-South and Triangular Cooperation. The floor is yours, Mrs. Zhang.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Minjong Zhang, Policy Officer of the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs of the Republic of Korea. It is my great pleasure to join this pre-Global South-South Development Expo event and present at the session of South-South and Triangular Cooperation in Agricultural Development.
미안해. 추천하려는데 잠깐만. 당겨줄게요. 이거 얼굴 보면서 해.
이렇게 하면 되는 거야? 된 거예요?
화면 공유 중이래요.
근데 왜 슬라이드 쇼가 안 되지?
지금 1페이지 아니에요?
I'm in charge of cooperation with FAO and other international organizations, including IFAD, UNDP, WFP, etc., at the General Division of International Cooperation within the ministry. The official development assistance project with FAO in particular is very unique as it is a South-South and Triangular Cooperation project. I believe that the South-South and Triangular Cooperation is becoming more and more important in this networked and connected international community. In this regard, I'm once again very pleased to introduce the ODA project funded by the ministry and implemented by FAO, which is which is entitled Capacity Development and Experience Sharing for Rice Value Chains through South-South and Triangular Cooperation Project.
하나씩 내려야 되는 거.
So here's the overview of my presentation. First, I will introduce the Republic of Korea's SSTC partnership with FAO. The Republic of Korea achieved rice self-sufficiency in the 1980s and established rice policies to develop the entire rice value chain for this purpose. In November 2014, the Republic of Korea and FAO jointly implemented a Phase 1 SSTC project with focusing on the development of rice value chains to facilitate the use of Republic of Korea's expertise for knowledge sharing and capacity building. For instance, the three countries had the opportunity to visit the Republic of Korea during this project, specifically the country's Rural Development Administration, in order to learn from its experience with regard to the rice production policies. The lessons learned from Phase 1 SSTC project include the role that modern and profitable rice value chains play in alleviating malnutrition, improving farmer market linkages, and increasing off-farm employment opportunities. Also, it showed the need for more efficient stakeholders coordination, a stronger involvement of relevant local counterparts, and a more country needs-oriented training program. Building upon these lessons, the Republic of Korea, through MAFRA, joined forces for the Phase 2 Rice Value Chain Development SSTC project which began in June 2020. Second, I will present the overview of the capacity development and experience sharing for rice value chains through SSTC project. Phase 2 project draw lessons from the Phase 1 project in the past on capacity development and experience sharing for sustainable rice value chain development in Africa through South-South cooperation. Second phase project also adopted the SSTC mechanism, considering it effectively facilitates the exchange of knowledge, technologies, and experiences among countries in the global South across the regions. In this case, Africa and Asia. The Republic of Korea's key role to this SSTC project will be knowledge transfer and sharing. The Republic of Korea achieved rice self-sufficiency in the 1980s and established rice policies to develop the entire rice value chain for this purpose. Based on such experiences, the Republic of Korea shares good practices, policies, and knowledge to the target countries to support their capacity development so that the target countries can learn lessons and reflect it to their own existing policies for further developing their rice value chains. Meanwhile, FAO facilitated knowledge and experience sharing among the participating countries. Also, FAO supports and facilitates the validation, transfer, contextualization, and adaptation of Korean technology and experience to the target countries, and monitors the whole project. With such support from the Republic of Korea and FAO, the project is implemented in the target countries. And the target countries, through their responsible government authorities, designate national training or research institutes that can transfer knowledge to the rice value chain stakeholders in the field. This is because in order to ensure the sustainability of the intervention, the project will strengthen the national designated research and training institutions, target key policy stakeholders, and develop and promote solutions identified in consultation with key stakeholders. Hence, the designated national institutes can be used as a base for knowledge exchange and training with other countries, and to train farmers, millers, distributors, and technicians within the country. Between and among the target countries, the project provides an opportunity to learn from each other. Therefore, the countries can exchange rice policies and good practices for co-learning and co-developing. In this inter-regional global SSTC project, it is notable that this project also involves the Philippines as one of the target countries, where the International Rice Research Institute with various rice techniques and expertise in Asia is located. Therefore, it is expected that the project provides an opportunity for Côte d'Ivoire and Tanzania to learn and use the Asian experience and technology so as to develop their rice value chains. Third, I will explain how MAFRA engaged in this SSTC project. During the implementation of the capacity development and experience sharing for rice value chains through SSTC project, ROK MAFRA specifically engaged in this project's policy workshops by involving Korean experts to present Korea's experiences in developing its rice sector and achieving its rice self-sufficiency. First of all the international policy workshop fostered the opportunity for the SSTC exchanges among the participating countries by harnessing the knowledge sharing on best practices and lessons learned for improved rice sector policymaking. The involvement of the Korean rice experts enabled the 3 target countries to learn successful rice value chain policies in the Republic of Korea. In the same line, Korea supported a Korean rice expert from the Korea Rural Economic Institute, or KRE, to be able to constantly join and contribute to the national level policy workshop, both in Cote d'Ivoire and the Philippines, by sharing insights from the Republic of Korea's rice sector development history and experiences. Finally, I will conclude my presentation with key expected project outcomes. Building on the phase 1 experience, this phase 2 SSTC project will deliver the following 1, 2, 3. And ultimately, the project is expected to contribute to the rice self-sufficiency to be achieved in target countries in the 2 different regions: Cote d'Ivoire, United Republic of Tanzania, and the Philippines. Through the South-South and triangular cooperation, I trust the target countries will be able to map their capacity needs and knowledge gaps and find sustainable and economically viable solutions by building on the strength and experiences of the Republic of Korea, which has progressed further in upscaling its rice productivity and nutrition security. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Zhang. Undoubtedly, the demand for rice is growing rapidly across the global south, as we've seen, and as a result of both an increasing population and dietary changes. However, production is not keeping pace, as we've heard from you, which is why projects such as these are really important to enhance the capacity development of small and medium-sized agriculture enterprises. I'm sure phase 2 will build on the success achieved so far, and we're very happy to hear these great achievements. Now, we will now hear from our final panelist, Mrs. Laura Elena Carrillo Cubillas. She's the Executive Director of the Mexican Agency for International Development Cooperation, who unfortunately was not able to attend due to an unexpected conflicting commitment, but she has sent us a video message on the case study concerning the Mesoamerica Hunger-Free Amexid FAO program, which we will see now. Thank you.
Hola, muy buenos días a todas y todos los presentes y también a quienes nos acompañan vía virtual. Es un gran gusto participar el día de hoy aquí. Agradezco a la Directora General Adjunta de la Organización de las Naciones Unidas para la Alimentación y la Agricultura, señora Elizabeth Bertol. Gracias por invitarme a compartir con ustedes algunas de las experiencias del Gobierno de México, que a través de la Agencia Mexicana de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo, AMEXID, y en el marco de la cooperación internacional, llevamos a cabo en materia de seguridad alimentaria y nutricional en Mesoamérica. También quiero aprovechar para transmitir a ustedes un cordial saludo del Canciller de México, Marcelo Ebrard Casabón, y también al Director General de FAO, Ku Dong-yu. Es gracias a las acciones que se realizan en conjunto con la FAO, particularmente en materia de seguridad alimentaria y nutricional, que hemos estado trabajando con el programa Mesoamérica sin hambre, AMEXID FAO, que a 7 años de su creación ha alcanzado importantes logros trabajando de la mano tanto con los gobiernos de los países mesoamericanos como con organismos regionales. Y contribuimos así con el asesoramiento técnico, la articulación institucional y también la elaboración y validación de herramientas metodológicas a través de experiencias piloto. Les invito a seguir estas imágenes y testimonios sobre nuestro programa y sus resultados.
Uno de los grandes desafíos globales planteados por la Organización de Naciones Unidas es la lucha contra el hambre aterrizado en el Objetivo de Desarrollo Sostenible ODS 2, Hambre Cero, que propone acabar con todas las formas de hambre y desnutrición para 2030. Para cumplir con esta meta, la Cancillería mexicana, por medio de la Agencia Mexicana de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo, AMEXID, auspicia Mesoamérica sin hambre, exitoso programa instrumentado por la FAO en 9 países de Mesoamérica: Belice, Costa Rica, Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panamá y República Dominicana. Por medio de distintos proyectos que arrojan resultados medibles, se fortalecen los marcos normativos y la institucionalidad que permiten hacer frente a la pobreza, dinamizar las economías rurales y generar oportunidades, llevando las necesidades de los países del campo a la política pública. Como ejemplo de ello, podemos mencionar la conformación de frentes parlamentarios contra el hambre a nivel nacional y territorial en 10 países, la Estrategia Nacional de Bancos Comunitarios de Semillas y Uso de Insumos Biológicos en Nicaragua, el diseño de una estrategia para asegurar entornos saludables en las escuelas participantes del Programa de Alimentación Escolar en Guatemala, la aprobación de la Ley Nacional de Compras Públicas de Colombia, la conformación de la Alianza Parlamentaria contra el Hambre y la Malnutrición de Belice, la actualización del Manual para Docentes de Educación Básica sobre Educación Alimentaria y Nutricional de El Salvador, la aprobación de la Ley Nacional de Agricultura Familiar y puesta en marcha del Plan Nacional de Seguridad Alimentaria y Nutricional de Panamá, la divulgación de la Ley de Soberanía y Seguridad Alimentaria y Nutricional de República Dominicana y la formulación y aprobación de un Plan Nacional de Agricultura Familiar en Costa Rica que, de manera global, se materializan en la formulación de 29 políticas públicas y 50 marcos normativos, apoyando así a la región y la vida institucional de gobiernos nacionales. De manera paralela, mediante las gestiones del Parlamento Latinoamericano y Caribeño Parlatino, se alcanzó la aprobación de leyes modelo de agricultura familiar en 2016 y la de pesca artesanal o en pequeña escala en 2017, así como la Ley sobre Sistemas Comunitarios de Agua y Saneamiento del 2021, que contó con el importante apoyo técnico del Instituto Mexicano de Tecnología del Agua, el IMTA de México. Hemos fortalecido las estructuras institucionales que sientan las bases para estrechar la relación entre autoridades locales y organizaciones de productores, al tiempo que desarrolla intervenciones focalizadas en campo como la agricultura protegida, la acuicultura, la captación y aprovechamiento de agua de lluvia y el establecimiento de bancos comunitarios de semillas. Un elemento clave es el apoyo técnico de la FAO y de instituciones académicas locales de prestigio que contribuye a mejorar calidad y eficiencia de procedimientos llevados a cabo por los integrantes de las comunidades gracias a que se desarrollan a partir de la detección de necesidades y prioridades identificadas de manera conjunta, lo que detona un alto sentido de apropiación entre los beneficiarios. Como prueba de ello, a partir de la transferencia de tecnología innovadora, se apoyó en la construcción de sistemas de captación y aprovechamiento de agua de lluvia, SCAL, en escuelas de Colombia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Honduras, Panamá y República Dominicana, contribuyendo a mejorar el acceso al vital líquido potabilizado en comunidades, promoviendo la autosuficiencia, el uso racional del recurso y la disminución de enfermedades. Esto ha permitido el escalamiento por parte de autoridades nacionales y locales que, junto con organismos como el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo, promueven su instalación de sistemas en otras escuelas, beneficiando a miles de estudiantes, principalmente población indígena de las zonas rurales. Es de destacar que otro de los elementos fundamentales es el apoyo para el desarrollo de investigaciones universitarias sobre el derecho humano a la alimentación adecuada, en estrecha colaboración con el Observatorio de Derecho a la Alimentación de América Latina y el Caribe. Mesoamérica Sin Hambre contribuyó a la creación de bancos comunitarios de semillas y fitomejoramiento participativo, promover cambios en técnicas de captura de la langosta a través del uso de refugios artificiales, incidir en el cultivo de frutas y hortalizas en ambientes protegidos, fomentar el diseño y comercialización de artesanías indígenas, apoyar escuelas de campo en centros de agricultura urbana y periurbana, dar forma a la metodología Escuelas Sostenibles para Alimentación Escolar y la de Registro Voluntario de Agricultores Familiares. El programa Mesoamérica Sin Hambre, financiado por la MEXID e instrumentado por la FAO, concentra cada esfuerzo en abatir un problema de orden global. Abatir el hambre partiendo de un enfoque regional y bajo el criterio de compartir las experiencias de éxito.
Mesoamérica Sin Hambre.
Para mí me llevaron a trabajar, pues yo aprendí ahí muchas cosas a hacerlas.
Aunque sabemos que hace falta mucho por avanzar, tenemos la convicción de que seguimos contribuyendo al mejoramiento de las condiciones de vida de la región mesoamericana, particularmente de la población más vulnerable. En el futuro inmediato, enfrentamos el reto de seguir avanzando de la mejor manera una vez que concluya la actual etapa de Mesoamérica sin hambre en diciembre del presente año. Es así que ya contamos con los hallazgos, resultados y recomendaciones de un gran proceso de evaluación recientemente concluido por la Oficina de Evaluación de FAO en Roma. Y mantenemos el compromiso de seguir construyendo sobre esa base. Como lo ha expresado reiteradamente el presidente Andrés Manuel López Obrador, México es y seguirá siendo un país profundamente solidario. Sabemos que el ámbito de la seguridad alimentaria y nutricional es particularmente sensible, sobre todo en la coyuntura que estamos viviendo en la actualidad, especialmente en los países en desarrollo. Son tan importantes los frutos de la cooperación sur-sur y triangular que nos empeñamos en seguir trabajando para que nadie se quede atrás en el cumplimiento de los objetivos del desarrollo sostenible, donde se propone acabar con todas las formas de hambre y desnutrición para el año 2030. Sin duda será una reunión muy productiva, encaminada a la toma de decisiones para continuar fortaleciendo el desarrollo de nuestros países. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Carrillo-Cubillas. We also believe that policy is the foundation on which all development rests, and without a beneficial policy environment, even the finest innovations, as we know, will struggle to make an important impact. It's great to hear from you and how the Mesoamerica Hunger-Free Program has been able to promote and facilitate a high-level policy dialogue program, and with members of course, of several national parliamentary fronts against hunger, achieving great results. Now that we have concluded this panel discussion, we are eager, of course, to listen to any questions that you may have. Participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am now passing the floor to our colleagues from the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, who will be moderating this live session. Please raise your virtual Zoom hands or just send us a message in the chat. And in order for our colleagues to give you the floor, I see that we have already received a question. So thanks again to all the tremendous support and to all the panelists for your valuable presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. And thank you to all panelists for very interesting presentations. Yes, we do have a question already in the Q&A box. We welcome other participants to send in your questions so we can ask directly to Mr. Belico and Ms. Zhang. The first question that we have is actually for Mr. Belico. The question comes from Mihaela Sedbadi, and she's thanking you, Mr. Belico, for the presentation, and she would like to ask if you can elaborate a little bit more on the China FAO Madagascar project and what exactly was FAO's role in the project and what kind of support that you provided to ensure the success of the project.
Thank you very much. I think that's a very, very valid question. And let me say that we are a knowledge organization, and what we do best is sharing knowledge. In this case, China contributed with experts. The experts were training local counterparts, as we mentioned, who in turn trained the producers. What FAO does is that we also put our own technicians at the disposal of the team that comes from China. And our technicians will ensure also that the messages that are given by the Chinese experts are properly relayed to the producers. We ensure we provide quality control to make sure that things are working the way they should. But bigger in this picture is also the operational support. It's not enough to have experts. you need a lot of operational support, a lot of steps that must be taken operationally for a project to be, brought to fruition. And this whole operational side of things was handled by FAO. Even when at the end of the project, the experts were not able to return to China for various reasons, quarantine after quarantine, we still needed to continue to provide this operational support. Otherwise, it would have been a catastrophe. When we say operation, we also mean ensuring that between the experts, all the way from the government to the Chinese experts, to the producers, that anything concrete that has to be done is done and is done properly. This is really the role we played. So our role was both technical and operational, but the operational side is quite huge in a project like this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belico. I would like actually to ask a follow-up question on that, because you emphasize the importance of knowledge and how FAO as an organization works to share knowledge with its partners and member states. You emphasize in your presentation the idea of cascade training and how the Chinese experts trained the Malagasy counterparts, and then those counterparts trained the rice farmers. Other than the fact that the training was then given in their local language, which is obviously very important, can you emphasize also what other aspects are important and why FAO chooses this training of trainers, cascade technical trainings that you mentioned as an effective strategy to ensure the sustainability of the results of the initiative?
Let me begin. Thank you for the question, which is again a very valid one. I didn't go all the way to say this, but among farmers, it's not that you find too many people out there who speak fluent French. People mainly speak Malagasy. And if you want them to master, to understand what you're telling them, what you're sharing with them, and to assimilate well and to be able to take ownership of it, you need to speak their language. Between the Chinese and the local national counterparts, we had good interpreters who were with us throughout the project. They were Malagasy, but they spoke very fluent Chinese, having studied in the country. So this worked very well. So the first point really that I want to make is that you need the people, the producers, to understand the message and to make it theirs, because otherwise something is lost in translation and you won't be able to get the results that you need. That's the first point. The second one, I think, is that as we showed in our logical framework, it was not only about sharing this knowledge, but making sure that the knowledge is applied in such a manner that it may facilitate other things, such as reaching a degree of agribusiness from the work that we were doing. And therefore, this kind of training was important also because then it could be done taking into account the local context. This is in addition. So the Chinese colleagues who came would teach some techniques, the way to use them, but then we will come in and translate, because this is what FAO does best, is to take knowledge and translate that into development instruments that can be used more concretely by people on the ground. And this is really where we came to complement the knowledge that was brought to the field by our Chinese colleagues, who did an extremely good job. And let me take the opportunity to again thank the government of China for its generosity with this project. I could go on to mention many other good things about this. Even the use of machinery, we could teach, they could explain how to use the machines. They were very light, but explaining that in the local language makes a huge difference, especially in Madagascar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Belico. Yes, we always as you know, at UNOSSC, a great part of our work is also on knowledge and on capturing the initiatives that are happening around the Global South. And we see initiatives such as this being done in a training of training method, and how important that is to also multiply the results of the initiative and to ensure that those results are sustainable over time. Yes, thank you very much. We also got a second question, and I think this one can be open for both panelists to answer. Well, the question is discussing how there is a lack of an investment on methodologies such as agroforestry that are proven to have good results in terms of sustainability and also improving livelihoods and ensuring food security, but that there is a lack of prioritization and investment from governments. If any of you could give us your thoughts about how we can ensure that global cooperation help mitigate the issues that we are facing now post-COVID and with wars, and how this is affecting food security, and how different methodologies like agroforestry could help us in solving the issues. So Ms. Zhang or Mr. Belico, if either one of you would like to answer this question. Ms. Zhang, Mr. Belico. Yes, Mr. Belico.
I think as we said, when this project started, we didn't have COVID-19. China brought all this expertise. FAO brought its own expertise, its own operational things. The project was already written. We signed the project. It was almost quote unquote written on stone. So we started implementing the project until we saw that COVID was there with us and would stay with us for some time. And this is where international cooperation comes in, because we were lucky that by discussing with China and the government, we could, kind of make some adaptation to the circumstances. And as I mentioned, we were able to kind of provide seeds for free. Otherwise, it would have been too hard for the producers to be able to acquire them. They are almost 4 times more expensive than the normal seeds that I have in the country. And so just being able to give them these seeds for free made a huge difference. So it's a matter of flexibility. It's a matter of not sticking to what's written in the project, but being able to adapt to circumstances and considering that written projects and signed projects are only living documents that require that we adapt to circumstances. Some countries do not always allow this kind of flexibility, and that can make it difficult for us to achieve the expected results. So again, we need to thank the government of China and all the companies that worked with us, because we were able to implement this flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Belico. I have a question now for Ms. Zhang from the Republic of Korea. So you emphasized in your presentation that MAFRA and the Republic of Korea promote not only the transfer of knowledge and technology to the partners, but also promote this ability for the partners to exchange knowledge among themselves. Can you, from a triangular cooperation perspective, can you emphasize, or can you tell us about why it's important for MAFRA to also promote these South-South exchanges among the partners of the project.
Thank you for your question. As the government, we would like to expand the effects of the project as further as possible. But if we just give the transfer of knowledge to the government agencies, then it may not be distributed to the people on the field. That's why we need exchange of information and capacity building among people on the field, transferred by the institutions. And as for the previous question, our project has been delayed due to COVID-19 as well. And we had trouble signing the contract with one of the recipient country's government. However, we instead had virtual meetings and tried to do what we could given the situation. And the project is well underway as of now. So as the government, we will provide our support and secure budget, etc., for the effective implementation of this project, which is a good case example of South-South and triangular cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zhang. And yes, I agree with you. I think the idea of also promoting South-South exchanges among the partners and the recipient countries ensures that you have maximum reach of the initiative, and also it allows for these countries to share their experiences in similar contexts, right? On how they the knowledge that is being transferred by the Republic of Korea in this example can be adapted to their specific contexts. And yes, I think, okay, let me. So we have another question from Dongxing Fang, also to Ms. Zhang from the Republic of Korea. They are saying, I believe that the project phase 2 benefited from IRRI as a research institution at global level. Would you please elaborate a bit more on this, on how the project benefited from IRRI as a research institution at the global level?
One of the recipient countries is the Philippines, where the IRRI is located. But until now, IRRI hasn't been involved directly, but it will give insight when we develop curriculum for training of research institutions.
Okay, we have a follow-up on that. So her second question is, do you have any consideration to expand the project, the scope of the project beyond rice in the future? So other crops and also maybe livestock?
For me?
Yes.
Yes. Until now, we don't have specific future plans to expand it to other crops or livestock, but we have willingness to promote such projects if possible.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Chung. I think these are all the questions that we have. But Mr. Ye, you also raised your hand a little while ago. So maybe if you want to say something, we can, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to ask one question to Mr. Pulika, because from your presentation, you gave some very good examples, such as Chinese experts training the counterpart in Madagascar, then Madagascar counterpart training the farmers. I think that this is excellent, because only through this way, the farmer can easily understand because of language, because of religion, because of culture and other things. But I would like to ask Mr. Pulika one question that during your presentation, you mentioned that there are some challenges. First challenge you mentioned that irrigation, road, market access. I think that this is a very genuine challenge to the developing nation, especially for the least developed countries. I would like to ask you the question that as you are FAO, because you know the country, that means the receiving country situation very much. So how could, that means maybe do you have any suggestion how to encourage and facilitate the government of receiving country to pay more attention to the stress on the to more focus on the agriculture infrastructure. So yes, this is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is I really appreciate the question. It's an interesting one again, and look, there are many forums at which we discuss with the government. We have the humanitarian country team, and we have something called we know it in French, but it's like a group that brings donors and partners, technical and financial partners together. And sometimes we bring government in to be able to agree on what kind of recommendations we could make to the government to really pay attention to this. And the World Bank is one of the partners that are active in that forum. We call it GDCR, which is a group. It's very difficult to translate into English. GDC stands for Groupe de Dialogue pour la Coordination. R is restreint because we don't just invite everyone. And in the framework of that group, we have the World Bank that is very active and extremely vocal. And by discussing with partners like the World Bank, we have been able to draw attention precisely to the problems of infrastructure. We know too many places where people are producing food, which then lose because they have no infrastructure to store, and they have no good roads to take it to the market. And those who need to go and buy, if they happen to go there, they will buy at very, very low prices, which are of no real benefit to the farmers. So we have been insisting on this. I think the World Bank has actually made some allocation for the government to start improving some of those roads, because it shouldn't be normal in a country, agricultural country like Madagascar, for people to run 100 kilometers to spend 4 hours to run 100 kilometers where they produce. And I have personally seen farmers who work a whole night to be able to sell their produce in the next market and come back home the next day. And what they earn from that whole trip, 2 nights, is nothing more than $20. And this should not continue. So we are, assembling these human stories, sharing with other partners, sharing with the government to stress the need to improve this side. I think the president of the Republic of Madagascar has heard this message I'm thinking that he has the determination to do something, and then we will see. He has stressed this, over and over again. Let's hope that some kind of action will come from this. Water is another issue when we talk about infrastructure as well. And because you asked this very interesting question, let me take the opportunity to go back to Michaela's earlier question about FAO's contribution, because the colleague who was running my presentation, Valentine, is a very good agronomist, even though she's in charge of communication. She knows what she's communicating. And she's been insisting, in addition to quality control and operations that I mentioned, which are huge, we also provided the legal basis for the collaboration between the two governments, including by drafting a manual on collaboration and coordination. But we also handled the communication side of this project, which she is in charge of herself. So I wanted to share these other elements that Valentine has insisted that I mention, and I thank her for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I just want to say very few words that thank you very much for you the message that just you mentioned that you exchanged with the Madagascar government, even including the president. I think that this is really important. You know that for agriculture infrastructure, to the agriculture productivity and the yield, crop yield, that's really so important. You mentioned that for irrigation, roads, and the market. This is the basic condition for agriculture sustainable development and advanced agriculture development. But this is belong to the domestic responsibility. In fact, it's very difficult to attract the outside investment and financial support to assist the agriculture infrastructure. But we can provide the advice to the government. We can do some experiment project to convince the government they need focus on the agriculture infrastructure. So for South and Triangular Cooperation in FAO, we in the past we only focused on the technical assistance. Now we are moved to the policy assistance, market access, agriculture development plan formulation, and experiment project for the agriculture infrastructure. All of these we need to consider that. If we only focus on the technical assistance, of course, the technical assistance, maybe this is an easier way. That's the easier way. It's easier to find experts and technicians, and easier to find the resource, and also maybe this is a more popular way. But we need to have the innovation thoughts to related to others, especially to overcome the challenge for the developing nation. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ye and Mr. Belico. We actually have one last question that is actually directly directed to Mr. Ye. Mr. Ye remarks that the preparation. Could you please elaborate on how FAO, on what is when it comes to engaging with the private sector? Mr. Ye, you're muted.
Yeah. I'm sorry that. So you asked me the question because the voice is not clearly. Could you repeat your question again?
Okay, I apologize. So you mentioned in your opening remarks that the private sector is very important when it comes to South-South and Triangular cooperation. So what is FAO's strategy in terms of engaging with the private sector on South-South and Triangular cooperation?
Thank you so much. In the past, FAO mainly, I think that is very similar with other international agency or UN agency. We are mainly focused on the government donation. But you know that government donation and the contribution resource is limited compared with the private sector. So FAO, especially for the new Director General, they emphasize the private sector very much. So in the past years, just last year, FAO formulated private strategy, private sector strategy. The main purpose is mobilize resources to support food system and the sustainable agriculture development. For PST, for on the area of South-South and Triangular cooperation, we also to do the transfer from the only depends on the government. Now we focus on to the government, continually government, foundations, private sector, and some others. So I just give you one example that just this morning we had a very good discussion with the Gates Foundation Beijing office. We decided Gates Foundation will donated $300,000 to support Nigeria crop disease control investigation first. So it's only for investigation. After investigation, we'll prepare the crop disease control project. So Gates Foundation, in fact, is belong to CC's foundation, and is NGO like a private. And also, I can give you another example that we now prepare one project for Sierra Leone project. So we try to find the resource from Africa Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, combined with the possible donation contribution from Germany government and also Sierra Leone government. So we also, this is a mixed way. So sometimes we cannot say that we only depends on the private or donated. In the future, we try to mobilize as possible as what we can do. So in the future, we sensing resource mobilization. We will ask least development country also donated. Just last June, I visited Uganda. So FAO signed an MOU with Uganda government. So even Uganda is the least developed nation country, but we convinced Uganda government donated about nearly $10 million dollar, combined with FAO China Trust Fund $2.4 million. So that is the least developed country also are possible donors. So for us, that means all of the possible donors, we will try to our best to mobilize resources from them, including private sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ye. I think those are all the questions that we have time for today. So I'll give the floor back to Michaela so we can go to the final session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rafael, and thanks to all colleagues and to all the questions, which were very interesting, and for your answers. Then now we are passing to the last session, as mentioned by Rafael, I would now like to give the floor to our last closing remarks from FAO to Mr. Nafis Khan, Senior Program Officer of the South-South Triangular Cooperation Division in FAO. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Good morning again. Good afternoon again. and a good evening again. Just trying to wake people up. It's very difficult to go ahead with the final words. By then, we are all exhausted. But anyway, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor for me to be able to participate in this auspicious occasion in the launching event of South-South in Action publication. May I take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all the participants for their invaluable contribution to our today's discussions. And we have witnessed so far how interactive, how informative, and how rich, finally, how exciting was our discussion. Thanks to you for that. And the interaction and exchanges have highlighted the need to spearhead cooperation among countries of the Global South and accelerate our collective efforts. We are witnessing a growing momentum and awareness of the importance of the sustainable agri-food system transformation to achieve the SDGs. As such, South-South and triangular cooperation plays an extremely crucial role. I think we all agree to that by now. We have heard today from our distinguished panelists how South-South and triangular cooperation is an expression of solidarity among peoples and countries of the South that contributes to their national well-being, collective self-reliance, and the achievement of the SDGs. Understandably, FAO attaches very high importance to South-South and triangular cooperation. For your information, we have diverse partnership as we were discussing, and our director has confirmed that to you, and with numerous countries. And the good news is that is growing exponentially. Thus, our ultimate goal is to enable countries to efficiently manage, exchange, and engage in a meaningful and mutually beneficial South-South and triangular cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, many of you have already pointed out today in your discussion, SSTC plays a catalytic role in supporting national and regional agenda. All our projects and programs have contributed greatly to raising the profile of food security and nutrition in national, regional, even global arena through facilitating policy dialogue and peer-to-peer learning. Absolutely crucial is the government engagement and political commitment for SSTC to succeed. Let us therefore walk the talk together to better mainstream SSTC into our national, regional, and global priorities to the extent possible, of course. We are also looking forward to our continuing conversation on this topic during the Global South-South Development Expo, as you have heard from our other colleagues, which is taking place in Bangkok. Mostly, the aim would be to transform now our commitments into solid actions and results. May I finally congratulate once again for conducting this auspicious occasion, and more importantly, to be able to finalize and publish the document which we consider to be acting as a very useful instrument and reference to spread the South-South and triangular cooperation. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Nafis, and distinguished guests, panelists, attendees. I would also like to thank you all for attending this important event and of course for your contributions to paving the way for further SSTC discussions and concrete actions, of course. In view, as colleagues have mentioned, of this year's Global South-South Development Expo in Bangkok in mid-September. Thanks everyone. Thank you all for your contributions, valuable contributions, and for all of you attending this important ceremony. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
重新回来。多谢啊，王主任。